And so as we were changing the way of eating, my blood pressure kept dropping. So we had to go off the blood pressure medications. Then we realized my blood sugar was dropping because I was on all these diabetic medications. So we cut those out. We ended up cutting down anxiety medications, my antidepressants. And so from going to taking about 15 to 20 pills a day, I take 3 total now. And so just with this way of eating, it really positively impacted my body that all these supplements and medications I were taking to help to stabilize myself, I was able to reverse these things just with my way of eating. It's actually working to help improve me now.
Welcome to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Anna Zinn, plant-based registered dietitian and transition coach. Hi friend, do you want to regain your health with plant-based eating but feel overwhelmed and lost about how to do it? Do you feel it'll be hard to change your meat-heavy diet and impossible with working, running the home, or chasing after the grandkids? If so, you're in the right place. Here you'll find simple strategies, clear nutrition guidance, and practical tips to help you thrive plant-powered with more energy. So if you're ready to ditch the guesswork and transform your health the stress-free way, cozy up now with a hot cup of tea or listen while you walk, and let me show you how doable plant-based eating can be. Let's do this. Before we get started, I want to give a little reminder. We've just reached a special milestone last week for this podcast, the 1-year anniversary mark. And to celebrate, I'm doing a special drawing to give away a free one-on-one private coaching session. This will help you get a jump start in your plant-based diet journey or help you overcome an existing transition challenge you're struggling with. To be in this drawing, give a 5-star rating and review of this show on Apple Podcasts, then take a screenshot of your written review and send that picture to me to healthnow@plantnourish.com. Do this before 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, July 23rd. My contact email will also be in the show notes. Don't know how to leave a review for this podcast? Here's what to do. If you have an Apple device, find the Apple Podcast app icon. It's a purple square with white circles. Open it, then search for Plant-Based Eating Made Easy. Once there, scroll all the way down past the 5-star symbols, then click on Write a Review. Leave a star rating, write your review, and then tap Send. You can also leave a review if you have iTunes downloaded on your PC computer. Tell me how this podcast is making a difference in your life. Now let's dive into this interview. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Rhonda as a special guest to this Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. Rhonda is a member of my Beginners for Plant-Based Diet Success community on Facebook, and I'm excited to have her join us. Hello, Rhonda. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. I'm excited to be here and to speak with you this morning.
That's wonderful. Can you share just a little bit about yourself and your background with us?
Sure. I'm here in a little suburb outside of Boise, Idaho. I'm married with 5 children, 2 grandchildren. I'm a nurse at a local Alzheimer's dementia unit, and I started this way of eating due to an autoimmune disorder. So my nephrologist recommended plant-based eating to help heal my body and to just decrease the flare-ups I was having from the autoimmune disorder.
Are you originally from Idaho or you moved from a different place?
We're originally from Southern California. We moved to Idaho about 4 years ago to plant a church here in Eagle, Idaho. We went from a very fast-paced, busy life, everything running 24 hours and everything moving so quickly to a very slow pace, just take time, enjoy the beauty around you kind of environment, which we never realized how much we were missing out on our own lives until we moved to a place where we're like, wow, we still have the same amount of hours in the day, but we do so much more because we just stop to slow down to enjoy things. We don't feel so rushed through everything.
That sounds like a good change in the pace of life, being forced to slow down a little bit. It's definitely a very different environment to live in a big city versus smaller suburb or town. How different was your lifestyle before you moved to a plant-based diet?
Before, it was horrible. And I didn't think it was horrible because we weren't eating sugar nonstop, but we're very busy. I'm a nurse. My husband, he works as a driver, so he's out on the road all day long. I'm running around with patients all day long. So by the time we got home, we were looking in the cupboards for macaroni and cheese and instant noodles and just, all these processed foods, thinking that serving it with ground turkey was making a healthy meal for our kids and giving them fruit that was covered in caramel or chocolate syrup, thinking, oh, they're eating fruit, it's good for them. And we went through a lot of soda, energy drinks. We were big on the energy drinks and the coffee to keep us going while we were working. So even though we thought we were eating healthy because we weren't eating lots of candy and chips and stuff like that, we were still putting all that processed food in our body that was just draining our energy. So what we thought was supposed to be giving us energy was actually just draining us.
I can definitely see where you're coming from. A lot of families living in a fast paced, busy society with both parents working. Often you are kind of in survival mode. If you're trying to keep your family together, keep everyone fed, and you're busy with working and running the home, sometimes you do reach for those convenience foods to be able to make quick dinners. But long term wise, that may not be the healthiest option going forward. So I appreciate you sharing that. I know a lot of families can identify with that. And I love what you said about how you're kind of pairing something. Oh, fruit with syrup or caramel. That's healthy. They're having the fruit. So I can understand where you're coming from with that thinking. So I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier in your introduction. When did you actually move to plant based eating? Was it recently? And what caused you to make that decision to go plant based? Was there a significant event that happened?
Yes, back in the end of March, early April, I was actually hospitalized. I was in total kidney failure. I have an autoimmune disorder which affects my kidneys and all the mountain of problems that come with it. And so once I was stabilized enough to come home and I followed up with my nephrologist that week, she recommended a plant-based diet way of eating, just saying this way will not cure your disease, but it can slow the progression of it. It can slow your flare ups and hopefully restore a little bit of your kidney function. So at that point, she said if I went another month with my kidney levels where it was at, I would automatically go on a transplant list. I'm not even 50 years old yet. I have these 5 children, my grandson, my granddaughter was still in the oven. And I'm thinking, there's no way I can just leave all this. I'm not ready to leave this earth. I'm not ready to let my body give up. I can't get to the point where I need to replace the body part. I'm just way too young. So I told my husband, well, let me give it a try for a few weeks, see how it goes. And we thought it was going to be one of those sad things where we start it and it's nice for a week or two and then that would be it. But as we started researching it more and looking into it more and just educating ourselves, we were surprised at all the different things that we never could have thought of were related to what we were eating. My husband, being a route driver, he does a lot of carrying and lifting with his work. So he's got his tendonitis and his carpal tunnel, and these would flare up quite often. I would get migraine headaches, and my son has asthma. And so just changing the way of eating, we were noticing his inflammation was gone. My headaches weren't coming as frequently. All of a sudden, I couldn't recall when the last time I had a headache when I was having them almost on a daily basis. My son's asthma, he wasn't wheezing anymore. He wasn't using the rescue inhaler. And even just, he was like, Mom, I feel like I breathe better. And what we didn't realize was all these foods that were making him tired, he couldn't really exercise and get his body going. And so, only being 10 years old, he was becoming this little round, stout guy. So we just started changing the way we were eating little by little. The kids were still eating meat. Me and my husband were doing just no meats, no dairies. And we started out slowly that way. Over time, as we were learning more, we started incorporating the no sugars, oils, salts, and cutting that back. And having my family support really helped. There's tons of recipes and just articles on different things you can eat. We were learning that stuff we eat on a regular basis, those were meals we could make strictly out of vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. The kids were taking smoothies for breakfast in the morning, and they were saying how they would get to lunchtime and from drinking their smoothies, they were still pretty full. They weren't hungry. They weren't having that morning slump where they were super tired at school. So since this last 6 months we've been eating this way, our lives have just drastically changed in how we feel and just what we do as a family. It's no longer sit on the couch and watch TV all day. We have this energy and the kids are like, let's go on a bike ride. Let's go down to the trails. Let's go for a hike. We want to do things. We want to be out there and we want to be active with all this newfound energy we have.
Wow, I really love hearing about all the changes. It's kind of like a ripple effect from making that decision to starting plant based eating with your husband on board, and then the domino effect it's had on the rest of your family members. I remember there was a comment you had made in response to a post within our community. You said whole food plant based has saved your life in so many different aspects. It sounds like it has really drastically changed not only your lifestyle and the way you are eating and living, but also has impacted your family in so many positive ways. I'd like to go back a little bit to that initial hospitalization you had. Before this, you already had an autoimmune condition, and that impacted your kidneys. Is that right?
Yes, I was considered stage 3 kidney failure. By the time I was hospitalized, I was in actual stage 5 renal failure with my GFR down to 12, and they really couldn't get it back up. The highest we would go was 15 and it would start dropping. But with this plant-based way of eating, I just had labs recently drawn last week. My GFR is up to 40. So my nephrologist is saying for us trying all the Western medicine we can over the last couple of months, even with your hospitalization, we couldn't get it up. And just changing your way of eating, your body is naturally repairing itself. It may not be a full recovery, a full where your kidney function is back to normal or you don't have signs of your autoimmune disorder, but your body is responding really well to just changing your way of eating. My hemoglobin A1c was up to 8.2 back in February. My recent A1c was 5.4. So just even that has gone down drastically. I mean, from going to being way over and being considered diabetic, I'm now under the threshold to even be considered pre-diabetic. So not that that is cured and I'll no longer have to worry about that, but my body has reacted in a way that it's producing the insulin naturally that it needs to regulate my blood sugar.
It sounds like your doctor was quite pleased at the progress you've been making. What was her reaction at seeing the latest labs?
She definitely was happy with what she was seeing. We did have some issues where I was on so many medications for cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes. I had anxiety and depression. And so as we were changing the way of eating, my blood pressure kept dropping. So we had to go off the blood pressure medications. Then I was still feeling weird and getting dizzy. And we realized my blood sugar was dropping because I was on all these diabetic medications. So we cut those out. We ended up cutting down anxiety medications, my antidepressants. And so from going to taking about 15 to 20 pills a day, I take 3 total now. And so just with this way of eating, it really positively impacted my body that all these supplements and medications I were taking to help to stabilize myself, I was able to reverse these things just with my way of eating, not needing those medications just to keep me stable and going. It's actually working to help improve me now.
That's so remarkable. From 15 to 20 pills a day. That's a lot to take every single day. Down to 3. That's so fantastic. Are you on any more cholesterol medications?
No, we discontinued that also.
Fantastic. So are you just on a little bit of anti-anxiety meds or antidepressant meds right now?
Yes, I am. They're slowly weaning those off. There's certain ones you can't just stop automatically. So with those, we've been tapering doses. And so far, I haven't seen any adverse reaction where I have increased anxiety or panic attacks, anything like that. So tapering them has been very successful. I'm hoping and praying that within the next year, I will be able to come off of those also.
Yes, definitely. And I'm hoping the same too. So you said you had a GFR of 12 in the hospital, and that's very low, definitely. For our listeners who don't know, GFR stands for Glomerular Filtration Rate, and a GFR test helps us to measure kidney function. So it kind of shows how well one's kidneys are working and the stage of kidney disease a person has. And changes in that GFR can help reveal how quickly the kidney disease is progressing in a person or even how the kidney function is improving. And if you have a GFR under 60, that already means you have kidney disease. And if that number is below 15, you are classified as having end stage renal disease or kidney failure, and you either need dialysis or be on a kidney transplant. So, Rhonda, I think that was why your doctor has said you would be on the kidney transplant list in about a month's time. So, that must have been quite a shock to receive that piece of news. What was your reaction at the time?
It definitely was shocking. I was just thinking, I'm too young to be thinking about the what ifs. What if I have to go on dialysis? And what if that doesn't work? What if I don't have the time to wait until my name is called on the transplant list? Because as rapidly as my kidneys were failing me, I didn't know if I had a couple months, a couple years, how much time I actually had. And it's very scary just thinking a few months ago, I was like, okay, my kidneys aren't doing so well. No big deal. There's plenty of people out there with kidney disease. But to see that my kidneys were saying, nope, we're just going to not do anything at all was just a total shock, and surprise. So it was very tough to comprehend what was going on and to accept it. And I finally, after researching plant-based way of eating and all the documentaries on Netflix and Hulu and Prime right now, seeing all of these and the success stories of others, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to accept that this is the reality of my life, that my kidneys will eventually fail. I'm going to do everything I can to live again. I'm not going to give up. And so little did I know that just changing how I ate on a daily basis would drastically change the outcome of my future.
And I'm so glad you did make that change. You didn't let the news take over and throw you perhaps into more depression and not feel you're able to make any changes. I'm glad you did take that step to look into things and to really make the change. It's wonderful that your renal doctor was for plant based diets and recommended that you try it. And I think what we're finding now from research is that actually many people who have renal disease who are eating a plant based diet, their potassium levels in their blood actually don't go up that much at all. And that's great news. What they're saying is that it's probably because the potassium in these plant based foods may be less bioavailable. And that could be due to higher fiber levels and other factors as well. So I'm really glad to hear that there's maybe a shift now in the way things are moving forward in terms of that. Did your renal doctor give you any other guidelines apart from just recommending you start eating a plant-based diet?
She just gave me a couple different websites to research on when she had first talked about it. She gave me the list of all the low phosphorus and low sodium foods and what to look out for and be wary of eating too much of this and that. When I went back 6 weeks later and she was reviewing my labs and she was impressed about the changes over those 6 weeks of my numbers, She was asking, are you staying away from the salt? Are you staying away from these foods? I confirmed I was still doing the plant-based diet. I said, we don't cook with salt. So whatever's naturally in the fruits and vegetables that we're eating is where we're getting all of our sources. I don't really know how much potassium or how much phosphorus or anything like that I'm actually eating because there's no labels. I'm just eating what looks good and what sounds good. And it was working for me. And she was telling me that a lot of times they give these guidelines because besides eating the fruits and vegetables, a lot of the patients are still eating a lot of those processed foods that contain high amounts of phosphorus, high amounts of sodium. And so they're trying to limit all of this. And so by eating plant-based, she was saying, I really don't have to watch because my body is going to kind of take what it needs and dispose of what it doesn't need. It automatically regulates it on itself. And so been doing this for 6 months and all of my electrolytes are within normal range. I don't have an excess of anything I shouldn't in my body. And so just watching my kidney function get better as all this yucky stuff I had been putting in my body for 40 plus years is being filtered out and replaced with the good natural stuff. My body's just kind of like, hey, I like this. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to because I'm being treated right.
That's true. It must be now an exciting thing when you go back to get your labs drawn versus previously when you might be dreading a little bit getting those lab results. Now you can go back and see how your kidney function is improving almost with each lab draw. A lot of processed foods actually can have high levels of phosphorus through additives that are added in the manufacturing process. So definitely sticking as much as possible to minimally processed or unprocessed whole plant-based foods is really the way you want to go if you have kidney disease and you want to improve your kidney function. I would say, though, there are certain things you may want to avoid or limit at the beginning during your transition until you can see how your body adjusts to the change in a plant-based diet. These can include much more concentrated potassium sources like fruit juices or vegetable sauces or dried fruit, and obviously those potassium or phosphorus additives. These are much more concentrated. All the water's been taken out, so it is more likely that you're getting a huge dose of that potassium when you're eating these foods. So just at the beginning, it's probably good to be limiting or avoiding those things, and you can kind of adjust things later as your electrolytes and the lab draws can show how your electrolytes are doing. It's wonderful to hear that within these 6 months, your electrolytes are now within normal levels, and I hope that will definitely continue. So I want to thank you, Rhonda, for all that you've shared so far, and I'm excited to delve into your plant-based diet journey more. I especially want to hear about how you've transitioned over. I'm sure our listeners want to know that as well, and more about the impact this has had in other areas of your life and on your family members. Let's pause here and pick up this conversation again in part 2 of this interview.
Sounds good. I'm excited to continue sharing.
That's great. So our listeners, please stay tuned for part 2 of this fascinating interview. I hope you feel encouraged to see what eating a whole food plant-based diet can potentially do to one's health. If you're now excited to learn more about plant-based eating and want to explore how it could truly help your specific situation with your current health challenges, reach out and connect with me. Send me an email at healthnow@plantnourish.com or apply for a free rapid health transformation call using the link in the show notes. Let's transform your health and life together through the power of whole plant-based foods. Thank you for listening to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. If this podcast has helped you, please rate and leave a written review on the Apple Podcast app or iTunes to let me know. Nothing will lift me up more than to read your review and see how this podcast has made a difference in your life. I also pick reviews to read on this show, so your review could be one of them. Come connect with me in my free Facebook community group, Beginners for Plant-Based Diet Success. Just go to bit.ly/PB Diet Success. That's bit.ly/PB Diet Success. You can also subscribe and follow this podcast to get notified when a new episode goes live. Signing off now, this is Anna, and I wish you the best health always.